The first thing is to cut China off from its source of wealth. Its primary source of wealth right now is actually re-engineering Western technology and selling it.
Is that a nice way of saying copying our shit?
Yeah, copying our shit. And not just our shit. French shit, British shit, German shit, Polish shit. They just steal everything that works and then recreate it on their own.
At half the cost. Sales is a service, is what I've learned. I get to hang out with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi 3 or 4 times a year. And I'm in Tony Robbins' house a couple of years ago. And he says, Pace, this product you have or this service you have, you're afraid to sell it because you don't either believe in the product or you don't realize that sales is actually a service to get people past their mental breakthroughs. Yeah. So when you're talking about, group psychosis, people that are not sales guys like you and me are going to go, oh, they're manipulating the audience. I look at it like, no, I'm serving you. I'm trying to get you outside of what you would call like a shed or maybe a circle that people feel safe in. Why the hell do I have to convince somebody to get out of the shed that they feel so comfortable in? Do you have any reason why humans want to stay in that shed?
It goes back to our survival instincts, right? If you really look at how people are wired to approach the world, socially wired.
Is this from their parents, their environment, from school, or is this just all of the above?
All of the above.
Okay.
Because when you talk about the social conditioning of an individual, that social conditioning begins in the household, and then it continues in whether public or private school, and then it goes into college, and then it goes into your first or second or third job, but it goes into the workforce. And social conditioning is defined by the society in which you are growing up in. So social conditioning in North Korea looks very different than social conditioning in the United States, but there's still social conditioning. When people are conditioned to believe that they're safe inside of a box, they're safe following orders. They're safe when they're given boundaries. They're safe when they're given instructions. That person learns to trust these things and simultaneously learns to distrust the lack of those things. So now you have a person who's been wired to believe they can only be successful if their box is defined, they're given instructions, and they have a certain goal they have to meet. You tell that same person to set their own goal, and they're lost because they've been conditioned from the age of 0 to 25 to need a box. And they don't have a natural inclination away from it. We also have to accept not everybody's going to be good at success. Not everybody's going to be good at independent thinking, entrepreneurialism, sales. Everybody can be better. But not everybody's going to be good. Not everybody's going to be great. Not everybody has a chance to really break into the top echelon. The ones that can be there know they can be there already. They know they could be great at sales. They know they could be great at making money. They know they could be a great entrepreneur.
Before they find you.
Before they find you too, right? Long before they find us, they already know they have the ability for it.
It's just inside of them.
Because they sold candy bars in high school, man.
Okay.
Right? These were the kids that knew how to get people to buy more of the French toast pizzas when they were in middle school.
Damn, why didn't we have French toast pizzas? Like, where were those, bro?
Those were in Pennsylvania, man. Okay. I remember how good I was at selling that shit. But they already know that they have an avenue. But society conditioned them for something else. Our society in the United States doesn't breed entrepreneurs. It breeds worker bees.
So people don't like the fact that that is the case, and they think that the government set this up to control the masses. I actually believe something very different. I think if you're a government, you'll know way more than I am. You're way more intelligent. I'm good at like a couple of little things, but you are intelligent on 50 different aspects. So you'll correct me where I'm wrong here. I look at the government, I'm like, man, if I was in politics and I was looking at all these people that were basically saying, dude, where's my shed? Like, give me a shed, give me a safe space. I don't know what to do. I would have to create a system that placated the worker bee mentality that they all have. Like, okay, tell me what my life looks like. Tell me where I'm going in 5, 10, 15, 30 years. Tell me what my shed looks like. Provide a safe space for me to not have any risk, right? The amygdala is essentially satisfying the amygdala's need to be safe and not expend energy. Yeah. I think the government created a system that placated and satisfied those people's brains. And they didn't know what else to do, because if they just gave you the secrets to the universe, hey, here you go, hard work, perseverance, risk, getting knocked in the teeth, kicked in the nuts 100 times, and then you'll maybe get a reward. People reject that at first. And so I think they had to create a system to create a safe environment, in my belief. I don't think that it was done maliciously.
No, I agree with you. And I don't think that you're wrong. So here's how the government views the population, not just the American government, but all the governments of the world, first world governments. Third world governments and autocracies are a little bit different. But when you're talking about your stereotypical democratic government, it's built to work a certain way. Let's go all the way back to our American Revolution. The pilgrims that came to the United States left the UK, not because they were persecuted. That's something that history books gets perverted. Yes, they were also being persecuted, but that wasn't why they left Britain. They left Britain because there was no more land to buy. You couldn't be a property owner anymore. It was all sold.
Because you had all the dukes and all the duchesses and all that kind of stuff. They had these swaths of land that were 100,000 acres and whatnot. It's not like Britain was completely overbuilt. It was that the aristocrats basically had it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you had that drive, that desire to create a legacy, you couldn't do it by sitting on somebody else's land selling turnips. You had to go somewhere else where you could create a turnip farm. So what they did is they created an army of contractors. All the pilgrims were contractors. If you go and build a farm and produce trade back to Britain after 2 years, 5 years, 3 years, you will earn the land that your farm is on. That inspired thousands to say, we can escape persecution and have freedom and build wealth that we can control in the new world. Let's go. And thousands of them came and thousands of them died. But the ones that survived created farms. They created homesteads. They created trade amongst themselves, all with an eye of creating value that went back to Britain. And it did go back to Britain. And that became the shed. That became the safe space. That became the box that the world worked in. As the colonialists continued and Britain started going to war with its French and Spanish neighbors, it started needing more from us than we could create. That wasn't our war. So they started abusing us in the United States to get more production out of us without giving us equal reward. That's the whole taxation without representation thing, right? Still, people were in their box. They were like, this is my land. I don't want to lose my land. So what our forefathers had to do was create a second box. They had to create a different shed. In the sales world, we call this an opportunity shift. You can't create a undeniable offer if you just try to tell people that they're going to get the same thing they're getting, but better. You have to actually create a whole different shift in how they're doing it, right? We used to think that CDs were the bomb. And we used to think that we want more music on our CDs. And people created better CDs. They created the mini disc.
That's right.
But then they also created this thing called an iPod, right? Something, an MP3 player.
The mini disc never took off, really. It was like, it's the same, but better.
Correct.
But what you're talking about is the iPod is like, no, it's completely different.
Completely different. Completely different. And even though it wasn't in some ways as good or as convenient as a CD, it was better. It was better. It was different. And that difference is what drew people to it. And the opportunity is what drew people to it, especially the early adopters of new technology. They're just naturally attracted to what's different. What if it's revolutionary? What if it's cutting edge, right? And then that went on to become the music in your phone. And even the MP3 player went the way of the dodo bird. And it's going to keep changing that way, right? We've learned that if you want exponential sales, you need to shift the opportunity, not improve the same service.
You might have just made me $1 million today, bro. I'm telling you, literally, I have an offer that's getting launched today, and I have to text something to myself because this is like, I have to remind myself. I have 5,000 people showing up tonight, and I've got an offer on something. And I was fighting this urge where my team, I'm the visionary, so a lot of times I have the vision, I can see it in 4D, Technicolor. They can't see that. And so they'll come with their opinions and their ideas, and you somewhat have to trust them. But then you have to also remind yourself you're the visionary.
You're the visionary.
And so I was trying to create something cutting edge. What we fought on was, no, let's improve the existing thing. I'm like, no. I want something new that nobody's ever done before. And essentially, you're convincing me to create the new shed.
I'm just convincing you to trust yourself, man.
Yeah, that's so good.
And now what you end up having is people are forced. It's artificial, but subconsciously they feel forced to pick between this safe box or this safe box. And that is the American Revolution. People choosing, do I stay in this box where I'm getting abused and I don't see the future for myself going the way I want it to go, or do I jump into this other box and join the revolution?
I imagine how well you define this box, this new box, is essentially the sales mechanism that gets people to convert into that thing. Because if you're like, yeah, it's this ambiguous circle and you can be free, Human beings don't want that. They want, no, tell me, what are the four sides? How tall is the ceiling?
How many people fit inside?
How many people fit inside? What's my role inside of there?
When does the door close to the box?
Yes.
They want to know these things. They want to know these things because the sales decision is theirs. They control that, or they want to believe that they control that. What they don't recognize is that you and I control the incentives.
Dude, how can people hire you for this? This is honestly, for a company, we do, $100 million between our 9 companies yearly, and you would take me to $300 million a year.
Let's do it, man. That's exactly the place that I love to serve.
Like, how do people hire you?
So on my website, you can email me directly. You can find your way to my contact form. People reach out to me on social media. People reach out to me. If they just email me, Andy@everydayspy.com, people figure that out and they just email me direct. And then, of course, there's word of mouth.
Okay, but you've got like one-on-one stuff, and you've also got group stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay, and the group stuff is in what format? Is that on Zooms? You guys are doing trainings? What are you doing?
So I've got kind of 2 different groups that I work with. I've got the groups of people who are already running $5 million businesses or more, and they fall into my business intelligence mastermind. And we meet monthly, and it's a live Zoom, and we actually go through everybody's company and what everybody's doing, what's working, what's not working, and we apply these techniques in real time. So August 15th, we have a conversation. By September 15th, the expectation is that you've implemented changes from the August 15th conversation. So it's a group that keeps each other accountable, right? And then I also have a self-service group setting where we'll talk once a month in a group, but it's not like I talk to everybody. It's a me talking to almost like a auditorium online. We've got a lesson, we've got feedback, and then they talk to each other in their own private community on our private platform called the Safe House. So those are our 2 big group endeavors. And it's because...
The Safe House, bro. That's so freaking genius.
And it's just like we're talking about here. It's because there's a big difference between the person who hasn't made $1 million in business yet and the person who has, especially the person who has made $1 million and is on track to make 12, 15, 30, 100. Very, very different person with a very, very different business. You got lots of people out there working very hard to make $350,000 a year. And they're just looking for that breakthrough idea. They're looking to jump out of one box and into another box, but it takes time to cultivate that person.
Right.
And that makes sense. You've got to uncondition or recondition everything they've been taught. And that takes time. Even if they're willing, they can't recondition in a day. Where you and I are, we send a text message and make $100 million. Make $1 million.
You'll make me an extra $1 million tonight just from hanging out with me today.
And that's as good of a testimonial as I could ever hope for right there.
Yeah, I can only imagine people that get some one-on-one time with you and can actually lay out some of their personal things like, hey, I'm launching this thing, or I'm doing this thing, or hey, I want to go back and improve this product because in 2020 it crushed, but now in 2025, the advent of at least the adoption of more AI instruments, this product no longer works as well as it did 5 years ago. I want to da-da-da-da. I imagine people that work with you on those very specific ideas, they become unstoppable.
Yeah.
Because you understand the psychology of all of these humans. I think marketers or salespeople or business people in general, we get to a point where you kind of understand why something worked or why it didn't. But we're so busy running forward that we never stop and go, wait, why did that work?
Yeah.
We think it was like the color or the graphic or the this or the that, and it rarely is. It's all human psychology, right?
Yeah, it's understanding the human experience and how that experience is perceived by your target, right? And understanding that there's an element of targets being individual, but also targets being part of a mass. It's K-pop Demon Hunters all over again.
Freaking gangster movie.
Movie, right? So
my kids are obsessed. I'm sure you have a 2 and a 6-year-old.
I actually have, my kids are much older now. I have a 8-year-old and a 12-year-old now.
Holy moly!
Yeah, it's all good.
Your 8-year-old and your 12-year-old are probably still into K-pop Demon Hunters.
Absolutely, and here's what's fascinating about it, right? We watched it maybe the first week or 2 that it came out. It was still new. My daughter was into cartoons. We were on a family trip and we were like, "What's this thing?" And it probably has music, so let's listen to it, right? I remember falling asleep the first time I watched it because I was so tired from the family vacation. I remember thinking, it's kind of a cool movie, and then you fall asleep dad style, right? The phenomenon of that movie as it's gone on, how many people have watched that movie only because somebody else talked about that movie?
Like 90%.
And that's a perfect example of one to many.
Yeah.
It's not that they were advertising it. Now you go to fucking Times Square, and it's an advertisement on a screen in Times Square.
Yeah.
It's free if you're on Netflix. If you're paying $17 a month, you can get it as much as you want. And somehow it's still worth it to put it on a giant flashing billboard in Times Square, New York, right? So what you're seeing here is that mass psychosis take over. Kids talking about it at school, K-pop demon hunter hanging trinkets that are sitting on your book bag, kids creating their own little keychains and then talking about it with their other friends, braiding their hair a certain way. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, I was with my daughters the other day, Chick-fil-A, pull up, listening to Soda Pop, their favorite song, and the girl in the drive-thru starts dancing and singing the song. And I was like, gosh, damn, how did they do this?
Yes.
They're so genius. I mean, it's catchy. The production value is incredibly, the story is also very, very good. It's compelling. They put a lot of money into it. It's a quality product, basically.
They didn't know it was going to be as great as it is.
Right.
But they put enough effort to give it the legs that if it wanted to run, it could.
And they also, I'm sure that they understood a lot of the human psychology behind why people love music, what's catchy, what's not catchy, how do we align this properly. They know storytelling and character development, and they understand you have to have an evil thing that's coming after the thing, and then there's a love thing that's involved. Like, they understand what human beings love, so they put it all into one package. And that's what happens when you understand what you teach, which is if I understood everything that you taught and I worked on those skills and those resources and I applied that to what I am already doing, oh my gosh, it's like an atomic bomb.
And for me, that's why I do what I do. I joined CIA because I wanted to have an exponential impact. I wanted to be one faceless, nameless person who had the ability to possibly redirect history.
Wow.
That was my goal. That was my drive. That was my ambition.
Right? I think of CIA people. I'm sorry if anybody's in this. Are you in the CIA? I'm not sure if Adler might be in the CIA. I look at anybody in the government as a bunch of idiots.
You're not wrong.
Like, I listen to you. I've been a fan of yours for a year and a half. And I listen to you. I'm like, this guy should have never gone to the government. You're too smart for the government.
And I learned that inside of government. And that's why I left government. And to be fair, there's a lot of very smart people who are inside government. They just haven't grown the courage. They haven't taken the risk.
They don't have a new box.
They don't have a new box to step out into yet.
Now, you created a box that you stepped out of, right? There's people like you, maybe even myself, that I don't know, had to have come from childhood or something. I don't think it came from birth. It had to have come from our environment, that you maybe in some weird way, you knew when you were in the government that you were going to leave the government at some point, and you also crafted your own box. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and it's 100% tied to my childhood. So for me, a big part of what drove me to government was how I was raised. I was raised in a family, like extended family, that were all military veterans. And I went into the military, and everybody's definition of success came from your title at work.
Yeah.
It came from how much money you made.
Your pension.
All of that. That's how it was defined.
What tier you were at. I hit this tier of pension. I've been here this long. I've earned this thing, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I all my friends that have people in the military, I'm like, you guys could just go build a business and get benefits that way, right?
And that's what's crazy. I mean, even in my own immediate family, I remember my mom and dad comparing themselves to their friends and family based off of job titles, company sizes, salaries, 401ks. It was unbelievable. And
so you were conditioned to believe in that.
Exactly. So I followed that path all the way from high school to college, from college to Air Force, from Air Force to CIA, just looking for the bigger title and the bigger chance to make the bigger impact. Because what could be better than being a CIA officer? And one day when I'm retired, I'll be able to tell everybody I was a CIA officer. And then that's gonna trump all my cousins. That's gonna trump my mom and dad. Like, that's gonna win everybody's pride, right? Well, then I'm inside CIA, and inside CIA, I start to learn I'm just another disposable resource. Like all the CIA officers there are disposable resources with a pipeline. Granted, it's 16 to 18 months long, but a pipeline of thousands waiting to replace us. And meanwhile, at the top of the food chain, you've got a less than 2% attrition rate, because people who have been there for 25 years don't want to leave. Because what the fuck else are they going to do?
For you, that's like second part of the pipeline. How are you going to get into that position?
Correct. So
it's
now
blocked.
You start seeing yourself getting pinched in this career path, and you start to see the lie for what it's always been.
It's almost like the shed is like coming down around you, and you're like, oh shit, I need to get the hell out of this shed, right?
And what's amazing is CIA teaches us how to create an artificial safe zone for our assets, for our targets in the field, because, I mean, quick tangent, treason is espionage, and treason is sales. If you want to get someone to start spying against their country, you've got to sell them on the idea of becoming a traitor.
Yeah.
That's a hard fucking sell.
Bro, did you ever watch Homeland?
I watched a few episodes of it because I've heard so many people talk about it.
I'm like, she's such a great salesperson. She's just selling people on espionage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very hard sale. But what happened for me is I connected the dots. I saw that what we were doing to foreign assets is the same thing that CIA leadership was doing to us inside CIA, convincing us that we were safe when we weren't safe. Like, you are literally going to age out at some point. There's going to be a cap on your salary. And depending on where you are when that cap hits and how many years you've spent abroad, that's going to determine your pension. And that's why there's a 2% attrition rate, because everybody needs to work their whole life because they've been a government employee for 30 years.
Do you think that sales is also not just creating a new box, defining the four walls, the ceiling, the floor, the safe space? It's padded walls. It's this, that, and the other. Here's the door. It's going to close at this time. And this opportunity is blah, blah, blah. And only this many people can fit in this box.
Right.
That's a big part of it. Is also part of it essentially attacking the existing box they're in, saying it's shrinking. It's coming down around you. They're throwing more people in it. You're going to suffocate. You're either going to die in there, or you got to go and get into this more safer box.
So the term that we use at the agency is called incentivizing. So rather than attacking,
That's a really nice word.
Rather than attacking the other box, you want to incentivize them, the target, to see the difference between your new box and their current box, and ask them open leading questions and present priming information that allows them to come to a predictable conclusion about the fact your box is already shrinking. Your box is already on the decline. Your box is already phased out. Let's make another $1 million, man.
Hold on, dude. I'm telling you, like, holy moly. I can't even imagine the clients that work with you.
I love my clients. That's why I have very few, because we get to have massive success. And then the only people that we kind of let in after that are the people who come from a word of mouth. They've already known that they've worked with them, because the most dangerous thing is putting your time into someone who doesn't act on it. And when they don't act on it, they don't see the power. And when they don't see the power, then they start to question you when they need to question them. And then it just becomes bad news for everybody.
Okay, that is a topic I could talk about for hours. I know we have a lot of time, so we'll hang.
And I want to wrap this one last point up, right? We talked about the way this question started is you were saying, don't people just see that as manipulating the masses? CIA literally teaches us in the first week that life is a coin, right? A coin. If you imagine a quarter or a 50-cent piece, or even your favorite golden coin, right? One side is heads, one side is tails. The value of the coin doesn't come from what's printed on one side or the other. The value of the coin is inside the coin, even though one side is heads and one side is tails. Human beings and what drives us is the same way. The value of what drives us is the coin. One side of the coin is manipulation. The other side of the coin is motivation. It's really just about whether you want to speak to the heads or speak to the tails, whether or not you're presenting one or the other. The value is still the same. So yes, some people need to be manipulated. But what I find is that most people respond first to motivation. You can motivate somebody to do something that increases the value they're looking for. But there are always going to be those people where you know what's best for them, you know it better than they do, and what's best for them could also benefit you or others, and then you flip the coin and you're like, all right, if you're not going to do it for the right reasons, I'm going to make you do it by manipulating.
I like your philosophy, because I find that I do that frequently. I'd say 80% of the time I'm motivating people to do it for the right reasons, and they get it, they run towards it. Then there's 20% of the time I'm like, man, I care about you so much, and I see the pain you're going through. I'm just going to have to manipulate you. And it could be like as simple as, I'll give you a good example of the way I manipulate people. Let's say I have a group Zoom I'm doing, and I have 1,000 people on there. They're people that are already in my community. And I go, all right, we're going to go after saving people from foreclosure, something that we do in the real estate space. And we're going to make these calls and do these things and set up our CRMs and da-da-da, and we're going to do the actual work, right? And there's 80% of people take action, 20% of people don't. So then what I have to do is I have to go to the 20% that don't take action, and I say something like, hey, we're creating this new training that I'm releasing for free, but you that have not taken these next couple of steps will not be welcomed into that thing. So what I do is I go after the tribe mentality of I'm going to be left behind. I'm going to be deserted in the desert, and I'm going to starve, and my tribe is not going to like me anymore. I better do something about it. And now they're not doing it because they want to make money. They're doing it because they don't want to be left behind. But they're still freaking doing it.
They're still doing it. And they're not all doing it, but the ones that can be moved
are
doing it. So now you're even taking that 20% and differentiating between the 80% that will take coercive action and the 20% that can't be moved at all.
I wish I knew what you knew, bro.
Dude, and that's the thing that's a big part of what drives me to keep doing what I'm doing, because you're not the first multi-millionaire, centimillionaire who has come up to me and been like, if I knew what you knew 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And for me, I'm on the other end. I know what I know building a business, right? So I'm excited for my future, but I also know that I'm still, in many ways, in building block phase. I'm still in scaling phase.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. When I first came in contact with your content, I really thought you were trying to teach people how to be spies. And then as I dug deeper, you just know so much about the government. You know so much about psyops and all these other things that I'd say 70% of your content is just speaking to why politics are this way and that. But the 30% are people like me that go, how do I use what you know to benefit people's lives around me, and in return actually make some money in the process, right? You are teaching business owners how to be undercover spies, essentially. That's
essentially the goal, is to teach business owners how to operate better, because that's all spies are. Spies are just operators. And we already covered how they're selling treason. So we're really just salespeople operating at the peak.
Yeah.
So the goal for me has always been to approach people and teach them how to sell better, operate better, and reach peak performance. But I mean, just like any new business person out there, how do I define a niche when I first get started? How do I stand out in a crowded space? How do I get mass psychosis in the internet world? That's called virality. How do you get this in a controlled fashion? You're not going to get that if you're the spy talking about business. But if you're the spy talking about spying, you're the only ex-CIA officer out there saying, I'm ex-CIA. If you're the only person out there telling the truth about how the government works and how spying works, and saying it unabashedly, because I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed that our government manipulates us. I'm not ashamed that a surveillance state is the ultimate predestined solution to a true democracy. I'm not ashamed of these things. I already know them to be true. So I'm going to tell you what I think is true. And then once you see that I tell you the truth about that, you're going to start listening to what other truths I tell you until you let me tell you about your fucking business.
I love it. I got to do a better job of that on other podcasts. Okay, so my wife would want me to ask you this question.
I love wife questions. I wish my wife was here to answer it.
She's a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
She wants to know, was 9/11 an inside job?
9/11 was not an inside job. I completely understand why that conspiracy exists. The reason 9/11 happened goes back to what you've already said is true about government. It is a shit show. Government is innately inefficient. Most people that work for government are not competent to be working for the government. That's why they're there. If they were competent, they'd be making more money doing something else. The vast majority of them did everything they could to get a government job and now stop doing anything that might compromise or risk their government job. So they do exactly what they're told. They live in a very small, very safe box for 30 years so that they can collect a 50% pension when they're 65 years old. All 9/11 was CIA and FBI not speaking the same language, not talking to each other, even when they had corroborated, valuable intelligence that the 9/11 Commission in 2003 concluded would have prevented 9/11 from happening. And they just didn't talk to each other. They were so bad at talking to each other that we had to create the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI. Didn't get created until after 9/11 because of the 9/11 Commission in 2003. For those of us who have a little bit of gray in our beard, we remember a time before TSA.
Oh, yeah. People could walk you up to the gate. Yes. People could meet you right after you walked out of the plane.
It was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that was the world that we lived in. So what we've got now, we've forgotten how different we were then. And pre-9/11 CIA, pre-9/11 FBI, pre-9/11 intelligence community, IC, was completely different than it is now. It's just, I can explain to you the anatomy of a conspiracy and why people want to hear the conspiracy, but the point is, we're just too embarrassed to admit that we're just incompetent. It's so much easier to digest if we believe somebody fooled us.
I think it's because we grew up thinking that government officials have authority, they're intelligent, they know things, they have a badge, they have a moniker, they have a thing, and oh my gosh, they're wearing a suit, and they should be revered. And then we get older and we go, we want to believe the thing that we have always believed, which is they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're running our freaking country. And there was a great quote. I can't remember it. The quote was, never chalk something up to being nefarious if it really comes down to just being incompetent.
Absolutely. So you're talking about a razor, an analytical razor, and that razor is an adage or a truth. And the truth is, never subscribe to conspiracy, that which can be explained with incompetence.
That's the quote.
Yep. And that is just like Occam's razor, which is another analytical foundation that says that the simplest solution is often the most correct, which again goes right back to what happened on 9/11. Some fantastical conspiracy that's still kept secret, or people just fucked up and bad things happened.
Okay. What about Epstein? What do you think about that?
The Epstein thing is really interesting. So I understand where people are coming from thinking that he was an asset. What I think might be off is what kind of asset people think he was. We're so hooked on this idea that he was a CIA asset or a Mossad asset because we heard from spokespeople in government that he had an intelligence connection. We're completely forgetting about the fact that FBI also has assets. And FBI assets can actually be protected from trial if they cooperate with the FBI. And how did Epstein make his money? How did he have the connections he had? Through criminal endeavors with super wealthy people offshore. He's exactly the kind of person that FBI would want to bring on as what's known as a CI, or a covert informant, clandestine informant. He's exactly the kind of American citizen that FBI would say, if you cooperate with us, we'll grant you amnesty in the court for any criminal activity that you do on behalf of supporting our operation. So now that would basically tell him either cooperate or go to jail right now for all the charges that we already know you're guilty of. It would be an easy solution for him, and it would be the kind of solution that would make it so that when his files were reviewed later on by the Trump administration, they understand that there's a contract between him and the government, and they can't compromise that.
They can't release it.
Because if they release that, they're basically telling every confidential informant everywhere from now until the end of time, your agreement with us is not going to be honored.
Why the hell do people not say that out loud? That makes so much logical sense.
Yes. It's KISS. It's keep it simple. It's Occam's razor.
Now, what they're doing is they're teasing us with, like, I'm not really into the Epstein stuff. I really don't care for it. I think politically, Democrats, Republicans are using this piece of information that they know probably can never be shared.
Yep.
And they're using it against each other, just going, let's see who can play with this ball better than the other one. And, Trump right now is like, I don't know why you guys are so obsessed with this Epstein thing. And Democrats use it because they're like, holy crap, Trump is doing all this stuff. We got to slow this freaking guy down. And they're using something they know can never be shared. According to what you're saying, it makes so much logical sense. Because if the FBI has these files, maybe they exist, maybe who knows if they even exist, and you release those things, all of the other CIs are going to go, I'm never going to work with you.
Yep.
I'm going to stop giving you all the information because I know it's going to be shared with everybody in the world. But the FBI can now show other CIs, see how we will never, under no circumstances, release this.
Exactly
Gosh,
right.
It makes so much sense.
You were thinking exactly like an intelligence officer.
What about him killing himself? Did he kill himself? Was he murdered?
And that's what's so fascinating. So because of the kind of crimes that he was engaged in, it puts him on like the fast track to violent crime inside a prison. Molestation, sex trafficking of children. When you hurt children,
you're
criminals
gonna get killed.
Do not look kindly on that. So
Right.
it's an instance where we have two very simple solutions. Simple solution number one is he really was killed in prison, and that the culture of prison was such that they're going to cover each other's backs because the guy got what was coming to him. Simultaneously, the fact that footage is missing and he could have been a confidential informant, he's prime time for someone to exfil him, a formal federal government official, to trump every rule of the prison, to go in and show a badge and be like, he's coming with us, and you're killing the recording. Again, another simple, clear, legal solution. So here we have two competing hypotheses that both fit our razors for analytical consideration.
So we'll never know.
We'll never know. If we ever do know, it's going to get us closer to understanding whether or not he was truly a confidential informant for an internal law enforcement agency.
It would make sense that he was. It would just make so much sense that he was a CI for our own internal side.
And for those people looking for justice, if he wasn't killed in prison, if he was exfilled and he is under witness protection, his life is not what it was before, because witness protection is not a lavish life. Witness protection, people who become informants against their country and exfil to the United States, or like Edward Snowden, who exfilled to Russia, you're only kept in a comfortable lifestyle for 3 to 7 years. And your comfort is not wealth. Your comfort is just solid, lower middle class comfort. You have air conditioning. You can afford to buy groceries. After that, your utility as a source decreases, and you kind of have to go find your own job and make a living for yourself. So justice is coming to that guy one way or the other. Even if we are protecting him because of our obligation to have him as a CI, he's not living high on the hog.
Yeah, he was living like a billionaire and doing all these crazy things all the time and living the life, and now he's living in a shed somewhere in freaking Nantucket.
Yeah, now he's got a fucking prefab that he's living in, sweating his tail off, and he's not making any money, and he doesn't have access to a savings account.
And he can't obviously have extravagant things, or else it would bring limelight to where he's at, what he's doing, et cetera, and they're not going to let that happen.
Exactly. He's cut off from his network. He's closely watched. And
did they actually show his body after he was killed?
I don't think they've ever shown a body. I don't think they've ever shown any footage of what was captured to show that the body was even deceased.
Interesting.
I think it's a full break in anything visual.
Okay, so how do you feel Trump has done in this first presidency or this second presidency?
He's taking risks. Donald Trump is acting like a business owner.
Yeah.
And I think for us business owners, we understand it. We see it. There's a part of us that appreciates it, but there's also a part of us that recognizes these are risks. Moving on the tariffs. The tariffs were a brilliant idea because it's just the 5 principles of sales, or the 5 principles of economics, that he was controlling. He knew that we controlled the largest market with the highest buying force in the world. And if we want to increase tariffs, we can.
We have the leverage.
We have the leverage. You're going to keep selling to us, and you're going to pay more to keep selling to us because you want access to us. That's a good move in the short term, but we don't know what that's going to be in the long term. And you see it now playing out as people wonder about Fed and interest rates and Treasury and inflation, because we all understand we did this. We've never done it before. We did it at scale. It had foreign policy implications as well as financial implications, but we don't know what's going to happen next. And that's kind of the theme with Donald Trump, is he's taking aggressive, risky action. We don't know if it's going to play out or not.
Do you feel like he's really, like, why the hell would anybody want to be a president? I think you're a lunatic to a certain degree. I wasn't built for that. I don't know that you were built for that or have the motivation to do that. I think you have to be a very specific type of person. But do you think somebody like Donald Trump wants to be president because he understands the game and he goes, this is the place I can be the most powerful business owner in the world and I can control more, essentially creating his new shed, saying more protection, more safety, more leverage, more relationships, more control, more this, that, and the other. Is it just a power grab, or is he actually motivated, do you think, to actually change the world?
I would say it's a mix of both, and I'm saying that with cautious optimism. But the vast majority of why Donald Trump is president is because it's a power grab. It's a huge win. And then for everybody who didn't listen as you rattled those things off, let's review some of those. Think about the network he has. Think about the name recognition he has. Think about the leverage he has. Think about the security he has, right? Now, I'm not talking about like Secret Service. I'm talking about the security of all the amnesty that comes with being a former president. The dude is a box jumper, and he creates his own boxes everywhere he goes. Sometimes he created those boxes by making great real estate investments. Sometimes he created those boxes by abusing the legal system. Sometimes he used coercion and force to force other people to do his bidding, and other times he used charm and manipulation to get what he wanted. He constantly is box jumping, and that's what makes people hate him, is they can't define him. What makes people love him is they can't define him. So one way or the other, he is in the role. You have to respect the office of the president, because like you said, who wants that job? I don't want that job.
Hell no.
But he's there. He's doing it. He's done something unprecedented by being a president, and then not being a president, and then being a president again. Like, that is fucking crazy. Bonkers, man. And that is something that will go down in history forever. And the name Trump, the legacy is secure. whether or not
Yeah.
we think he does a good job or a bad job.
I think he cares about his kids a tremendous amount, same as you and same as I do. And I think a lot of your activities, my activities on a daily basis, are creating boxes for our children to jump into.
Yep.
And if you are the president, you can set up crazy good deals for your kids, right? Your kids are now doing foreign affairs and they're over here and they're setting up real estate deals in a management thing over here and they're running this, that, and the other. His kids are basically saturating the whole entire world because of these relationships and these doors. And people will go, I want to be around Trump and I want to have his favor. So if I have to do something for his daughter or as this or as that, I mean, he's setting up his kids they're already set up for life, but he's basically making it a permanent solution for his kids to be safe for their whole life and his grandkids, which is awesome too. One thing I really like about your philosophy too is that you believe that life isn't fair and that once you understand life isn't fair and that you can play the game, people are pissed off that it's not fair, but they can wake up and realize like, oh, I can play a game too.
Yeah.
What I like about Trump is he doesn't play a fair game.
No.
He gives permission to guys like you and me that if I understand the rules of the game, I can go play that same exact game, fair or not fair. People that don't love the not fair world, what would you have to say to them? Like, oh yeah, okay, keep complaining, keep doing your thing, or you can just play the game the same as us.
So we were talking about how our government built us and how the revolutionary forefathers built us, right? And we have to understand that when the country was built, not everybody was equal. If you weren't a land-owning male, you didn't have a say. And I'm not saying that that was a good thing, but I am saying think about what that meant. What that meant was our forefathers were trying to lay a foundation where if you didn't have a vested interest in the country, you didn't count. There are lots of people who don't have a vested interest in the country. They don't even have a vested interest in the company that they work for. At best, they have a vested interest in the 401k that reaches maturity in 7 years. But they're not trying to own land. They're not trying to build business. They're not trying to build value. They're just trying to survive, or they're trying to enjoy the ride, right? Our country was never built for them. Whether we like to admit it or not, it was never built for them. That is also the same group that likes to talk about how unfair things are, how unfair it is that corporate executives make millions of dollars a year, how unfair it is that people can increase their prices or that the coffee shop down the street can close their door at 2 p.m. when Google Maps says it's supposed to be open till 4, right? They all complain about how unfair and wrong things are, not realizing that their whole opinion about what's unfair and wrong is based on something that was never part of our foundation. Our country...
I love this explanation so much.
Our country was built for people to be in control of what they care about, whether it's their kids or whether it's their business, understanding that at times it's the planting season and at times the weather's going to keep you from planting.
It's like walking into a McDonald's and being pissed off that not everything's made out of tofu. It's like, that's not what it was built for. What are you even in here complaining about? Okay, cool. So it kind of gives an explanation to those people. It's the same thing with the people that will say that let's say you're a scam artist because you're a sham or you're a government plant or you're X, Y, and Z that, they go pepper in comments and stuff like that because they don't like the things that you're teaching. Those people I don't know that they're ready to learn. I don't know that they ever really want it. And it seems like maybe the system was just not built for those people.
It wasn't. And the system has a place for those people, but nobody wants to hear what that place is. Because guess what every land-owning male had to have?
Workers.
And what did those workers do? They worked at the farm. They worked the plants. And when they got too old, they were kicked out of the farm and their salary was cut off and a young person was brought in. And when they complained too much, they lost their job and somebody else was brought in. And when somebody came in at a cheaper rate because the economy changed and you could get work for cheaper, then the expensive person was cut and the cheaper person was brought in. That's how the system works. We can complain about it. We can be angry at it. We can say it's unfair. We weren't built to be a fair country. We were built to be a superior democracy based on representation and economies of scale, which by default wasn't fair. We won the American Revolution by not fighting fair. We went into World War II and won World War II by not fighting fair. We manipulate our currency. We keep our stocks high. How? By not being fair.
Right.
If we were fair, we would lose all of our competitive advantage. So why do you think that you should be paid fairly based on what you think you're worth? You want to be paid more, show the person who's paying you that you are worth more.
Number one question I get every day is, how do I get everything done? I have 9 companies, 600 employees. We have customers all over the globe. We're doing fix and flips. We're doing buy and holds, apartments, RV parks, all of those things. Everybody wonders, how did I scale? How did I get to a higher level? And the answer is that, GoHighLevel. I use a CRM that allows all of my customers to come into one database. And instead of me hiring more employees to go and do all the follow-up, GoHighLevel has systems and automations that does all of that for me. So not only can I have my employees focus on higher end tasks, money-making tasks, GoHighLevel avoids all of the extra payroll. When you're brand new, having GoHighLevel is like having 5 different employees doing all the work for you just for a monthly fee. Go to GoHighLevel.com/Pace to learn how I'm using it, not only in my lending business, but my wholesale business, my fix and flip business. Literally, GoHighLevel controls the entire back end of all 9 of my companies. Go to GoHighLevel.com/Pace to learn more.
Yes. Okay. So when people join, Everyday Spy, you take them through personality tests and you take them through things that help them understand themselves, right? My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes, top 3. It's so stupid, but it's Shakespeare's quote of "Know thyself." I see people that get lost, confused, stuck. You've heard the words overwhelmed. These are all like newbie questions. Like, I'm new to a thing.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. I'm lost. I'm this, I'm that. I'm overwhelmed, right? And I think it comes down to them not knowing who they are and understanding how they're wired, which is what we talked about at the very beginning of the podcast. How do you help people uncover who they are? And once they uncover who they are, what does that mean for them? Do they have a forward path that they can now marry and go, okay, that's my box, I got to run towards it? Or what does that look like?
So there's a really fun experiment or fun exercise that we do at CIA early on. And we'll do it right now for everybody listening and everybody watching. So imagine that you're given $5,000 to take a vacation, right? Just giving it to you, $5,000, take a vacation. Once you're given that information, there are really only 4 next steps that anybody will take. And in those 4 next steps, you identify what's known as a personality's individual temperament, right? Temperament. 4 different temperaments will respond 4 different ways to this opportunity. The opportunity being $5,000 to go on vacation. The first temperament is somebody known as a bear. A bear is a person who hears that opportunity and the first thing they think of is, who am I going to take on this vacation? Am I going to take my wife? Am I going to take my kids? That's the first thing they think of is, who's coming with me? I have $5,000. I have a free vacation. I got to take somebody with me. And what do they want? Do they want to go to Rome? Do they want to go to Paris? Do they just want a staycation? That's a bear, first temperament.
Why do you call it a bear?
That's just what CIA and the
Like
Myers-Briggs.
A bear hug? Like you're trying to take people with you? Like what?
They're all 4 animals. And what's
Okay.
interesting is they're kind of all 4 predators too.
Okay.
But the bear response, the bear temperament is this, who's coming with me? The fox temperament is to come up with ideas. All the ideas of what you could do with $5,000 on vacation. I could do this. I could do that. I could go to 2 places. I could take a cruise to a new place and then spend another 5 days in the new place. I could go to a 3rd world country and take that money and make it last 3 times as long. I could go to a 1st world city and blow it all in 2 days.
Yes.
Right. But they have all the ideas.
I could blow it in one meal, bro. Let's go.
That's your fox.
Okay.
The next temperament is a lion. A lion takes and organizes the options that are available based on the constraints. I have $5,000. I have a vacation. So let's start making a list of places, costs, time of year, cities, outside villages of cities, famous historical monuments, and they put it all into a big organized grid. No decisions, but they make a grid, right? And then your last person is your cheetah. Your cheetah is the person who just takes action. $5,000, I'll take it, and I'm buying a plane ticket right away. And I'm buying a plane ticket for wherever the next plane is going, and I'll figure it out from there.
I'm either a cheetah or I'm predominantly a cheetah with a little bit of a bear.
Without having those 4 temperaments, we wouldn't even have a vocabulary for how to describe ourselves to each other, right? We would probably assume that we would handle it the same way. I am a fox exclusively. So when you tell me that there's an opportunity, it's all ideas. How do I want to use it? How could I use it? And I can get lost in my ideas. Just like a bear can end up on a vacation they don't want to be on because they did what their wife wants to do.
Okay, that ain't me. I'm like, I tell people, this is where we're going. Do you want to come with me?
There you go.
That's basically it. So maybe I'm a cheetah.
That sounds like a cheetah.
With a little bit more of a fox. I'm definitely not a bear of like, I'm never finding myself in a place I don't want to be.
There you go.
But I can see that from a buyer's perspective, like buyers in my world, audience, let's say my lending company, right? You have people that go, all right, I have money to go and help infuse into your fix and flip or infuse in your rental or whatever. And we lend money. It's one of my products that we sell, obviously. And I will see people that will go, okay, well, let me go talk to my wife. I got to bring them along. I got to convince them to come along for decision maker, right? Then there's other people that go, oh, you're going to give me access to money? Let me plan out all the things I can do with this money. Yep. Then there's people like, you gave me money? I'm buying a deal tomorrow.
I'm in.
Okay, interesting. So interesting.
And
so how
does
this show up for people in your world?
It shows up in lots of different ways. But the main point that I'm trying to communicate here is we were just talking about how Everyday Spy, how we as a company systematize people being able to understand themselves. Mm-hmm. That was just a simple version that's not based on a test or a quiz or any kind of empirical research. That's really just we heard an example, and already we can start to identify how we ourselves are wired. What I love about you is you're already thinking about how can I use this for everybody else. Now that I know the whole population breaks into 4 temperaments, how can I use that to make money? And hopefully that's what a lot of people listening right now are thinking too. In my company, that's the same thing I do. I know what the first step has to look like for a bear, a cheetah, a lion, or a fox. I know what the first step looks like. So when people come into my free front-end lead generator.
This is where I'm screwing up, my friend. I need this. I need that next piece, like in some of my businesses, right? I've created 26 avatars, not simple at all. I've found 26 avatars. I think that's too confusing. I think distilling that down to those 4 and then going, what's the next step for these people? I need this. So keep going.
So you find out, you find a way to identify the temperament in them. And that's part of what my whole free squeeze is. It's a quiz that people take. The quiz is based on a psychological exam that we leveraged at CIA. So when they finish these 12 questions, I already know what their temperament is. And then based on their temperament, I give them an offer custom tailored to their temperament, which then increases the conversion rate of the offer, which is the first stepping point to them continuing to invest. And then depending on whether they take the offer or not, I have a follow-up sequence that tests whether or not the original theory that we thought is true, or did they throw the quiz? Were they answering because they were embarrassed to be true, so instead they answered what they thought was true? So we have this way of kind of double checking, pressure testing the result. And then if nothing works, then we stop spending time marketing to that person because they're obviously not ready if they went through the exam and weren't honest in the exam. They're so distrusting or they lack so much self-awareness that they can't even come in as their true authentic self. So how are we ever going to help that person? So we have to cut that person out.
Yeah, it's a very simple version of that is I have a free Facebook group, a couple 100,000 members in it. And there's people, we ask for your email, we ask for a couple of basic pieces of information. And if they don't give us their email, we don't let them in. Mm-hmm. And then people DM me, go, you didn't let me in your Facebook group. You wouldn't give me your email. Oh yeah, I'm not giving you my email.
Yeah.
Then why would I let you in my freaking Facebook group? Like, you're not ready. Obviously, you don't trust me enough to let me communicate with you. So if I can't communicate with you, why would I continue to work with you?
And how am I going to protect the people in the group?
100%.
From you. If you're so untrusting that you're not going to give an email, what are you going to do to them when you get in here?
This is part of building community, private community that is so important that a lot of people don't understand. I have the largest real estate community in the world by a 10x margin. And people get pissed off that I've treated it like a country club. And it's my job to protect the inside people from the outside people that don't want to actually do the things to, work with those people. And it could be answering simple questions. It could be lying. You're like, you're obviously not a good fit because, again, best type of customer is a customer who's already paid you. Mm-hmm. I want to protect those people in my community from those people who've never paid me because these people are obviously ready to move forward, right. In their lives. So you guys will kind of pull those people out. You identify upfront. So what do you guys have booked calls? Like how do you?
It's all automated.
All automated.
For us, everything is automated. Everything is self-service. That part of my scaling challenge is getting to a place where I can scale a sales team to be able to do what we do over the phone with consistent results. That's CEO visionary stuff that I have to deal with.
That's your next step.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
But where we are now with the automated process, I mean, we are a lead generating machine with self-liquidating offers that come in like every hour. It's a blast to watch it all play out because it's really just math at work.
Of course.
It's systems at work, and it's so much fun to watch systems.
Well, what's fun is that you have a product and a service that everybody on the planet really actually needs. Like whether they're going to jump into real estate or finance, or they're going to start a business, or hell, I just want to be really good at the job I'm in, the company I work for that I love, and I want to be a vested partner at some point. Your product of helping them identify who they are and how to improve what that thing is what everybody foundationally needs. Do you find that people come into your community and they're surprised by the results of what they've just recently found? Like, oh, this is who I am. I've been fighting against the grain the entire time.
Yeah, that you've just nailed it. That's what a solid 80% of the people who come in and really do the work, they realize that they've been fighting against their own superpower. They've been fighting against the thing that makes them stand out. They've been fighting against the thing that is their competitive advantage. And they've been trying to fit into something else that was never going to work. Let me just give you a quick story. When my wife and I left CIA, my wife was also former CIA with me.
You met her in there?
We met at CIA. We had our first child undercover, and it was.
Bro, is this like a romance novel being written right now? I had my first child undercover. Like, dude, this
does sound like a good romance novel.
Hell yes. With your long hair, you're on the front cover, like shirtless.
You're going to have to definitely airbrush my pecs a little bit.
This is great.
But my point is, we learned within my son's first year of life that CIA had no interest in supporting us as parents. They wanted us to be operators first, and they didn't give a shit about our kids. That was the opposite of what we wanted. I grew up in a household like we were talking about earlier, where I as a child wasn't valued. So the last thing I was going to do was not value my children. So we made the decision to leave CIA. CIA didn't have a process for people leaving. It certainly didn't have a process for young, successful middle managers to leave. Because at that point, my wife and I had already had 2 massive operational breakthroughs. We had kind of changed the face of CIA, and they wanted us climbing the corporate ladder. We were like, we're going to go raise a family. They didn't know how to process that. So they had to put us in this weird space where we weren't employed. We were allowed to resign, but they didn't roll back our cover, meaning we didn't have a real resume. We had this gap of 7 years on our resume where nobody really knew what we did. Something was there, but there was nobody that was going to pick up the phone. There was no real reference. There was no history of employment. There was nothing verifiable. So for 6 months, we lived in my in-laws' converted garage in Florida, trying to get a job according to the box that society gave us. LinkedIn and Indeed and filling out applications and putting a lot of work into writing good cover letters and like all that shit. And it was turning into no job offers, no employment for a really good fucking reason. Because you're not supposed to hire somebody who can't verify their last 7 years of employment. When someone doesn't pick up the phone and there are no references to call, there's a reason for that. Or when you call a reference and there's nobody.
Yeah, they're full of shit.
Exactly. So I can completely understand why nobody would hire us. So 6 months in a converted garage, sweating our ass off in Florida summer with a 1-year-old in a playpen, I was like, this isn't going to fucking work. We have to cheat the system. And CIA taught us how to cheat the system, but we've been forcing ourselves to live in this other box. What if we just take what CIA taught us about living a life undercover, like lying your way into a job, fraudulently creating a resume, faking it until you make it, and then using learning techniques to learn quickly on the job? What if we just did that and got a job and then figured it out from there? And my wife was like, it can't be any worse. So we put ourselves together. She found an executive. She studied the executive. She built a dossier on the executive. I approached and bumped the executive, and we manipulated a scenario where the executive was like, I could use a guy like you on my team. And then before we knew it, boom, I was hired. $80,000, 100% remote in Florida. As soon as I was hired with the executive's grace, I went to the HR person. I was like, you know who else you want to hire as my wife? Boom, a week later, my wife's hired. $80,000, 100% remote, fully from Florida. We have a combined income of $160,000 in Florida in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
We buy a house for $200K, and now life is gravy. And that's just the beginning of what turned into 4 or 5 years of incredible corporate success before it dawned on us that we were like, if we can actually do this ourselves, we put this into a program, we can do this for thousands of people. And that's how Everyday Spy was born.
Who do you feel like Everyday Spy is for at its foundation?
At its foundation, Everyday Spy is for the person who is trying to have that financial breakthrough. But that financial breakthrough is different for everybody.
Is this a 9-to-5 person?
I'm thinking it's a 9-to-5 person. the people that we touch the most, that we really love to touch, are the people who are making the leap from $45,000 a year, working their ass off, or the person getting paid $75,000 a year to work, 3,000 hours a year. That person has a chance to become an entrepreneur. That person has the chance to get a better job. That person has a chance to become the boss. And our lessons apply to the corporate mindset so easily that it's not a big stretch for them. Then we have the people who are multi-million-dollar business owners, $2 to $5 million business owners annually. Those are the next people that we target because we can have the biggest impact on them, and we don't have to teach all the corporate lessons.
Right.
We just have to teach the mindset and the psychology. This group, the group of 9 to 5ers, psychology is a little bit beyond their reach, but simple systems is fair. The person who's already running a multi-million-dollar business already has simple systems. What that person needs is psychological breakthroughs.
Are you doing any challenges or webinars?
We have challenges. We have both. My webinars are few and far between because what I find is that my front-end webinars, while valuable, I'm just lazy. That's the real reason I don't do webinars. Is because,
I love the honesty.
because I'm like, they make money. They're super easy. They're super fast. It's just not what gives me a thrill. What gives me a thrill is watching the scoreboard on my wall just naturally increase with lead gen that's all self-automated. And then going and meeting with clients.
You do challenges.
We do challenges. And our challenges, by and large, are actually physical first because we can show people physical breakthroughs using our systems.
How do I be a part of that?
So if you look up Everyday Spy, SpyFit, then you'll find that there's a SpyFit challenge that pops up every 6 weeks. You can get on a wait list. You can join us. Right now, we have a SpyFit that launches on Thursday of this week. And that SpyFit challenge is a challenge that brings people into how spies physically train. And it's like 6 weeks long. Our challenge right now is a muscle builder challenge. We have a weight loss challenge. We have a mental health challenge. And we literally transform people's lives in the first 14 days. But then they just sit with us for the next 6 weeks.
For accountability.
For accountability and to see how far they can go in 6 weeks. If you've seen how far you can go in 2 weeks.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You give people evidence, they won't stop.
That's exactly what we found.
Right? I think that's where a lot of people that are stuck in their life, the only evidence they have is that they can't do it. And so they're just continually living that cycle like, oh, I have evidence, but the evidence is that I don't do what I say I'm going to do. I don't have accountability. I lie to myself. That's my evidence. If you can get people through 2 weeks of new evidence, bro, they're not going to stop.
You've rewritten a condition.
Okay. So somebody comes through this, right? They come through your 6 week challenge. What's your next evolution for that person? Because is it, hey, I want to prove to you, you can change your physical life. You can change your mindset. You can change these things. So maybe it's time for you to start looking at building a business.
Essentially, CIA structures all espionage around a pyramid called the National Security Triangle. And the 3 parts of that pyramid align in everyday life to health, wealth, and relationships. 3 sides of the pyramid. The difference between those 3 elements, those foundations to all of our lives, we all have a health element, we all have a wealth element, we all have a relationships element. The difference between those 3 is how fast you can make a change. It's very hard to make a change to your wealth in a short period of time.
Right.
It's also very hard to make a change to your relationships in a short period of time. But I can literally change your health in less than 24 hours. If I can convince you to do a couple of things before you go to sleep tonight, when you wake up feeling better tomorrow, your life has changed. And you believe it right away.
Yeah.
Right? Once you get them to believe in one pillar, then you're like, hey, you're going to get healthy. You already know you're going to get healthy because we're working on this. The next thing you need to change is your relationships. Because relationships supercharge your ability to create wealth.
Right. Or they hold them back.
And relationships, just like you were saying, relationships can be rewritten quickly. They can't be rewritten in 24 hours, but they can be rewritten in 72 hours. If you and I change just a few things that we do with our spouses will believe a change has occurred.
Right.
If we change just a few things with our kids, a few things with our employees, a few things on our podcast, the viewer will literally think a change has occurred. They will believe the change, even if it's an accidental change. So you can transform relationships in a matter of days. You can transform health in a matter of hours. So all we're doing is creating a system of empirical evidence that leads people to the point where when we say, okay, now your health is improving, your relationships are top notch. Let's secure this legacy.
Genius.
And change your wealth.
It's genius because it's exactly what people actually need. It's not manipulation.
Correct.
It's motivation. And So you go through in that 6-week challenge, do you focus only on health, or do you go health, relationships, and then at the end you talk about wealth?
So we're always, this is what I mentioned earlier, that there's a process called priming. So we always have to prime, and I'm sure you do it too. You always have to prime people for what's coming next. You can't get people to turn a sharp right after 6 weeks. Instead, what you have to do is tell them every week, a right turn is coming, a right turn is coming, a right turn is coming. And then when you tell them about the right turn, they've already accepted that it's coming. Right. So for 6 weeks, we focus 80% on health. And then we make sure that people understand, hey, how are your relationships benefiting from the change in health? How's your relationship with your wife? Are you spending more time with friends? How's work feeling? How are your coworkers? How's conflict? Is conflict still stressing you out, or do you find that conflict doesn't stress you out like it used to because you have more physical resources because of your fitness? Right? So we're priming and priming and priming until it comes to the end of that 6 weeks. And we're like, hey, you feel good. You're sleeping great. You're leaner than stronger than you've ever been. You're ready to take the next step and put that to work in building a better relationship, getting back to being in love with your partner, getting back to feeling sexy when you're at home, getting back to feeling confident when you're out on the single trail, getting back to the place where you're the person in work that everybody notices when you walk in the door, right? Helping people to tie in the relationship benefits of a new physical life.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so you guys do that. How do people get there again?
People get there by, if you look up everydayspy.com and you type in SpyFit, SPYFIT, you'll find your way right into our SpyFit program. If you go to everydayspy.com and you sign up anywhere on Everyday Spy, you're also going to be invited to the next SpyFit challenge. So the fastest way to get there is really just go to our website, take the quiz. We were just talking about the free lead gen. Take the quiz, find out what your temperament is, find out what kind of spy you would be, and then boom, you're going to get the invitation to the next SpyFit challenge.
Do you have a new book coming out, or have you recently released one?
So my wife and I's romance novel, our CIA.
Hell yeah, bro! Undercover Babies is the name of it.
Our CIA memoir is called Shadow Cell. It hits the shelves September 9th worldwide. It's being published by Little Brown, which is an imprint of Hachette. So we have a Big 5 publisher backing our story, and it's already getting just incredible reviews from literary critics, but also from everyday people. It's been spectacular.
I read that book. What do I get out of it?
When you read Shadow Cell, you're going to understand first the most modern, current CIA espionage story ever told. It's less than a decade old, whereas most everything else you read is about Cold War spying or spying during the War on Terror, right? So we wanted the most contemporary, honest, transparent memoir ever written that tells the story of what CIA operations look like right now against America's largest adversary. We can't disclose who that adversary is, so I'm going to have to let your imagination do the work for you. But CIA, 3 years ago when they read this manuscript, CIA deemed our book a classified document from end to end, and it could not be released. It took 3 years of legal fighting and ultimately resulted in the threat of a First Amendment lawsuit before CIA let us release this book.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. So you're going to find out about how tradecraft works. You're going to find out about how our adversary works. You're going to find out about how CIA actually builds and runs operations. And through it all, it's teaching. Because like I told you, our mission is spy education that breaks barriers. We don't do anything without education. So even though it's a memoir, it's kind of like a sugar-coated pill that also teaches you about how spies approach problems, solve problems, think through priorities, and execute tradecraft.
What's the country we should be the most afraid of?
China.
And followed by who?
There's not even a close second. China is our number one geopolitical, military, and economic threat. If we can neutralize China, we are golden.
How would you do that if you are, let's say, a CIA operation? How would you do that?
The first thing is to cut China off from its source of wealth. And its primary source of wealth right now is actually re-engineering Western technology and selling it as Chinese technology.
Is that a nice way of saying copying our shit?
Yeah, copying our shit. And not just our shit, French shit, British shit, German shit, Polish shit. They just steal everything that works and then recreate it on their own.
At half the cost.
Offer it at half the cost. And what that does is it creates an opportunity for the rest of the world to pick someone else to send their money, including Europe. Even Europe is choosing Chinese electric vehicles over other electric vehicles when Chinese EV technology was just stolen from other countries, right?
And you can't really deal with patent law because you're country to country, right?
Correct.
So there's no way to really govern that, I would say. And there's such a massive, it's a country, but it's really a company. They're a massive operation. And they're so freaking big that they can get so much done so fast. You almost have no ability to keep up with them.
And that's why Donald Trump's tariffs against China made a ton of sense. And they still are making sense because that's what they're designed to do, is cut China off from its wealth. If China can't you've got to think of wealth as limited, right? There's only a limited amount of money in the world. Even with countries printing money, there's still just a limited amount of true capital. So when one country becomes wealthier, that only happens if somebody else is losing it, right?
Right.
So as China gets wealthier, what it's doing is it's taking that wealth from the West and predominantly from the United States. So that's their strategic ambition, is to not ever be in open conflict with anybody until the economic tiles flip. Because one of the reasons the United States is so powerful is economically we're powerful, and we turn that economic engine into a military power source.
Right.
We spend the most. We have the best technology. We have the newest training, or the newest weapons, and the best trained troops because we can spend that money. As soon as we lose money, we have to start saving. We can't spend on those things.
Right.
We have to put money into something else. On the flip side, when China has excess capital, then they're going to have the most modern weapons. They're going to have the best trained troops. They're going to have,
and we lose our edge.
And we lose our edge. And China has watched how we built our edge from the end of World War II. And then when we focused exclusively on the global war on terror, where was China?
Not building.
Exactly. They were not fighting that war. So we put trillions of dollars into a war on terror that we ultimately lost. And then China took all that time to steal our technology while our back was turned, build a whole new technological base, and then start selling it to the world. The argument that people have is that China's not such a threat because it has all these domestic issues. Oh, it's overpopulated and it's got social welfare issues and blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't. It's not the United States. It doesn't believe in social welfare. China has already demonstrated with its Cultural Revolution that when it needs to reduce, or when it needs to enrich the per capita rate, it just kills millions of people. That's what it does. So if you're looking at China and you're like, oh, the per capita rate right there is like $13,000 per person, where in the US we make, $24,000 per person. Once China lets 1 million people die, 10 million people die, all of a sudden that per capita goes up because it's a small group of people in China making most of the income. The rest are just hangers on.
Yeah, worker bees.
And they don't need them. And China knows that when your job is to create widgets, you need worker bees. But when your job is to create technology, you don't. So all the social welfare that used to be there to protect manufacturing workers is going away. And the future Xi Jinping wants for the country is a future where they are high tech, where they are handling financial products, where they are basically carbon copies of what the United States has been for the last 50 years.
It's scary.
And brilliant. They're the only country doing it. Somehow.
If I were them, I would do the same thing.
Correct.
Right. And I can only they're essentially feeling, hey, we're this massive organization, but these guys are the bully in the playground.
Yeah.
I want to take that bully down. What you're going to do is you're not going to pick a fight with them right now. You're going to play nice and you're going to build up, and behind the scenes, you're going to be going to the gym and you're going to be doing the thing.
Yep.
And you're not going to cause any conflict until you're stronger and more capable than that. So right now, you don't really see China causing issues and poking the bear because they are trying to get big enough that they can essentially overtake us and have an edge over us, which right now it's here.
Exactly. You can think of it like the playground where you've got the bully and then you've got the kid that doesn't like the bully. Or you can think of it like business where you have the leading competitor and then you have all the second and third level competitors. What do? We take market share.
Right.
We take market share knowing that as we steal that market share,
and the best thing you do is they just steal. Like for me, I'm the leading person in the real estate world, at least from a community size. So what people do, all my competitors, they don't create.
Yep.
They steal. Copy. And they go, okay, that's working. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take market share. They even will like go to their 4 or 5 buddies and go, let's all try and take and steal from Pace's ideas. So I have to come up with new ideas and be 3 years ahead of them. So while they're working on my ideas that I was working on 3 years ago, I already know, hey, you guys are working on 3 year ago ideas. I'm already on to the next idea. And so you look at like a Trump's America where Trump is trying to push forward and actually create things and go and get, foreign investments into our country and better alignment with foreign affairs, all of those types of things. You see, he's doing a good job from that perspective. Otherwise, China's going to be just stealing all the stuff that we were doing 10 years ago.
Right. And unfortunately, we are in a political cycle right now where China understands that a competitive, combative president that's going to aggressively move is a temporary president. And then shortly after that, we're going to get a placated, passive president that comes in, and then they'll take their action. So
doesn't that suck,
it
dude?
sucks big time. And that's why I'm not optimistic about the next 12 to 20 years for the United States.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary to think about. I thought about it too. It's like you feel the forward momentum from the business standpoint. I mean, even the big, beautiful tax bill that helps me as an investor, you know, tax depreciation and all the beautiful things it gives me. I look at that and go, this is great. It's great for people that are producing jobs. I've got 300 plus employees. It's great for me. But what will happen is the other side of our political bipolar world, they're going to push so hard against the Trump world, and they're going to create whatever they got to create so they can take that back over. And we're going to go back to the placated little sissy person that's not really doing anything, not creating anything. And that's when China is going to have another surge of momentum.
Yeah. We have to remember that the United States became the world's largest superpower, not by being friends with anybody. It became the world's largest superpower by telling everybody what to do and stepping on toes every step of the way. We rebuilt Germany. We rebuilt France. We rebuilt the UK. We rebuilt Japan. We took advantage of a war-torn world, and we forced our debt on them, and we forced our currency on them, and we forced trade on them. And as a result of that, the whole world grew stronger and wealthier, with the United States leading the way. That wasn't us being nice.
Right.
That was us twisting and manipulating. Where we could motivate, we motivated, because motivating is always cheaper than manipulating. But where somebody couldn't be motivated because they had a strongman dictator, or because they had some sort of tribalism, or because they had whatever else, we just went in and we took it away from them. And we forced them to bend to our will. Was that fair? Nope. Was it nice? Nope. Was it diplomatic? No. Even what we call diplomacy isn't really fair. It's us putting pressure on people to do what they are supposed to do that benefits us. We're not a fair country. We need to stop kind of chasing our own tail. When we get a politician in office that thinks that we're actually fair, like, that's a bad thing. We have to understand that our advantage comes from our leverage. Our diplomatic leverage is tied to our economic leverage. Our military leverage is tied to our economic leverage. If you're not valuing what our true arsenal is, then we're not going to the fight.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of your philosophy is that I personally, when I figure out the unfair advantage, I go right towards that, right? And you're trying to teach the average everyday person how to find the unfair advantage and realize, like, here is, life isn't fair, so go after that thing. I work hard on the one thing that I know I have an unfair advantage on, and people will say stuff to me and go, this is unfair. You're playing a game that's unfair. I go, okay, hell yeah, then I'm playing the game the right freaking way. People that this system were not built for get pissed off at it, but it is the way it's supposed to be, sadly.
There's one of the reasons I was excited to sit with you is because I truly believe that what you are teaching is the right unfair advantage, especially for the future of where our country is going. Specifically, real estate, even more specifically, commercial real estate. That is an asset that only benefits from inflation. That's an asset that only benefits from uncertainty. And if you're wise in how you go about securing the asset, growing the asset, and ultimately selling the asset, your money is safer there than it is anywhere else.
Right.
And it's true and it's real. And I understand that there's a lot of reasons why people don't want to go down that road. It could be too expensive. It could be too complicated.
Risky,
it could be whatever.
Management. Blah,
And
blah, blah,
I see you doing everything you can to break those walls down. And for me, I feel better because the people who are following what you're teaching will find themselves in a better financial place 10 years from now than they do now. And as a country, we're going to be benefiting from the fact that those wealthier people are paying more taxes, making more jobs, making sure that our commercial real estate is even viable.
Right.
If all we did right now was turn our money into cash and hope to get a raise, we're dead in the water.
Yeah, we're dead. Okay, a couple more questions. Somebody comes to you a little bit higher level, right? They're doing $10 million, $20 million a year. You have multiple clients I'm sure you do some one-on-ones with. What are common things that you see in those people's lives that are holding them from going from 20 million to 100 million?
You know, it's funny. The biggest thing that I see is that they are tied up with personal or individual issues that don't align priority-wise with what they're trying to achieve. They're struggling with something that's personally holding them back, feeling bad about time with their kids, recovering from a divorce, struggling with a second spouse, dealing with the fact that their kids don't like them. There's something that's keeping them from alignment with their own outcomes, with the very thing that they built for the last 10 years. They spent, and they're making $20 million getting something, and now they're struggling with what to do next. And oftentimes the reason that they're struggling is because they've never prioritized what actually matters to them, which is why they somehow both want money and want time with their kids, right? That's not unfamiliar. That's not strange. That's not even rare. It's just you have to actually go through the process of understanding who you are to understand what you prioritize and why you prioritize it. Because what I find is that, especially for people who are decimillionaires, when they start to say that they feel guilty about something, they're generalizing the thing they feel guilty about. I don't spend enough time at home. When in reality, the thing that's bothering them is that they don't have regular contact with their oldest daughter. Like there's a specific thing that's bothering you that we overgeneralize because our survival instinct is keeping us from talking about it to others, and also keeping us from reflecting on truly what is bothering us. And then when you find out that person worth $25 million a year is also a bear by temperament, you're like, dude, you care about people. You have an oldest daughter. Your oldest daughter is the one that you care not the most about, but she's the one that suffered the most because she was a baby when you were starting this business. So now that your business is secure and you've been building it for her anyways, then they start to connect it. And then they start to realize, oh, that's true. This is who I am. This is how I'm wired. And that is my priority. And then they get back to business. The other thing that I find that really wealthy people run into, or businesses of that size, is that they understand that psychology makes a difference. They understand it makes a difference in the sales team. They understand it makes a difference in the customer service team. They understand it makes a difference in the sales process. And they understand that they don't really understand psychology, that they've been doing what other people do. They've been doing what advisors tell them to do, and it works, but they don't really know why it works. And when you don't know the why behind how something works, it's very hard to scale it with your own knowledge, with your own experience, with your own twist. So being distracted by the personal thing prevents them from being able to add their own twist to the thing that's going to take them from 10 million to 50 million. And that's the gap that we close the most often.
Yeah, I think that's me. Like I have such a great balance in my personal life. I think that's one of the top questions people ask me is like, how do you spend 6 to 7 hours a day with your kids and your wife, and they're with you everywhere you travel, and you still run this big operation? Well, that's systems and that's operations. And It's also attracting really high quality team members that believe in the vision as well. I've gotten past that part as an individual for the most part. I'm sure there's always improvements, 100%. I'm sure, in fact, if you brought somebody in, you came into my life, you'd be like, Pace, like, let's tweak these things. But for me, understanding the psychology of maybe my sales team, understanding the psychology of my team members, understanding the psychology of my audience and my customers at a higher level, I would look at it like this. I love golf. I don't get a chance to play it as often as I would maybe like. Maybe next life. In next life, I'll be Tiger Woods. But I've gotten better at golf because of muscle memory, right? So I've hit enough shots enough times to go, okay, well, when I stand this way, it does this outcome. Rather than hiring somebody, I believe in coaches like nothing else. I love spending the money to get the shortcut, which is why I'm like, how do I work with you? If I hire a golf coach, they can take an outside view and they can say, hey, this is actually what's going on. You think because your muscle memory is telling you when you're on a webinar and you can get the side chat to do this and you can do this, that, and the other, you've done it enough times that you've figured out through muscle memory, do these actions, you'll get a result. But you don't understand why these actions actually work with your audience and how it actually benefits them. So you can understand the deep-rooted reason why you should dig deeper, get better at that thing, how to polish it a little bit. But that's where I feel like I need the most help. And you guys help people with that.
Correct. I would tweak some of the way that you're talking about it, right? Because what I would say is it's not that you want to understand the psychology of your sales team. It's more that you have a culture that you're trying to create.
Correct.
But what you need to do is bring in sales team members that will amplify that culture. Whereas maybe right now you're bringing in sales team members for something else because they have a good performance record, or they're referrers, they've been referred by a friend, or you just know you need more salespeople. So you have a process for hiring and firing.
It's almost like you're in my sales team. Yeah.
But you're trying to generate a culture.
Right.
That's the terminology that I would use. Right. And when it comes to your audience, you understand what to do to make, you know, a 25% conversion rate on a webinar, but maybe you don't know why it works the way it works. You also know that if you were to make a few changes, you could take that 25% to 35%.
Right.
And now you don't need more webinars. You need the same number of webinars, and you're going to get a higher conversion rate and a higher quality client that comes from it. And oh, by the way, what's the marketing engine that brings people to the webinars?
Right.
And how can I tweak that? And how can I tweak the affiliate deals that I have? And how can I tweak the partners that I'm with? And how can I tweak when I spend my hours at work? How do I increase the number of dollars I generate without increasing the number of hours I generate, so that I can make more time on the golf course? Because I don't think that the next life is the time to play golf.
Yeah,
now
it
is the
isn't.
time to play golf.
I'll be doing something cooler, I'm sure. Yeah. So obviously you help people through your webinars and your challenges. People that are in my audience, I have a lot of high-level real estate investors that probably look at you and go, I need your brain, or at least a part of your brain in my world. You guys do one-on-ones? Do you guys do things of that nature?
We do one-on-one coaching. I will say that I personally do one-on-one coaching very, very rarely, because what I'm looking for is the person who's going to make the most impact in the least amount of time. So that's what I'm looking for.
There's nothing worse than teaching people and they don't take freaking action on it, or they don't do enough with it, and you're just like, I wasted my freaking time.
Yeah. My favorite way to teach, my personal favorite way to teach, is actually from a stage during live events, because you can communicate. You've got an audience of people who are already there to learn. You can control the mass psychosis like we talked about. You can have the largest impact. And if you do it once a quarter, if you do it once every year, you can actually see the change as people are forced to exercise the skill on their own, separate from you.
I think also on a live event, so for me, I love live events as well. You can see in my office. Oh, yeah. I think the best part about a live event is, let's say I come to one of your live events. Where do you guys hold them?
We hold them in Colorado Springs. We hold them in Las Vegas. We hold them in...
okay, cool. Yeah. So I go to one of your live events. The best part is you're teaching an audience. You're creating a buzz. Everybody's kind of on the same page. In the hallways, the breakout sessions, or even after the event, guess what's happening? They're networking with each other. Iron sharpens iron. And they're bringing multiple perspectives to the situation, rather than you just doing one-on-ones, which your job, being put on this earth, is to create a massive amount of impact. You can't do that at scale on one-on-one. But if you do it in a room, you create that buzz. They all have that same vibration. They go in the hallways, lunch, they go to dinners, they go hang out for the next 3 or 4 months, and they're texting each other and they're in group chats. They're taking your principles and applying them to each other's businesses. So is that different than your challenges?
Yes and no. I would say they're mostly the same because of all the things that you mentioned. You're looking for the buzz. You're looking to create the group community, not just a community of people, but a community of people who iron sharpens iron.
Right.
You want a contributory community,
yes,
not just a puddle of people, right? So to create those, you have to give people a goal. You have to give them a purpose. You have to give them a set of things to accomplish along the way. So challenges are great for that. And the right type of live event is great for that too. So you can create that contribution, which drives people to see the outcome on the other side.
Okay, cool. I love that. Now, final question for me. I want to go create a new shed for people, a new safe house, so to speak. What are the elements I need? Let's say I'm on a webinar. Let's say I'm on a YouTube video. What are the elements I need for this person who loves being in the shed to say, you know what? I got the convenience. What was it? Not comparison. It was convenience.
Convenience and security.
Okay. So convenience, and how do I create the security? Are there elements? Is there a framework that helps me define this shed so that people understand this is my plan? Or are there things that people are constantly missing when they're selling a shed, essentially?
Yeah.
Is there anything that's missing? Like you need a game plan. It's the first step. Hey, you might tell people that the best thing for them to do is learn real estate. Okay, but there's not steps and there's not a why. Are there any frameworks I should know in order to create a better shed?
So I'm gonna give you a framework. It's not a fast framework. So I'm gonna make it as concise as I can make it. In intelligence, we use a framework called the SADRAT framework. SADRAT.
SADRAT. Okay.
SADRAT. And SADRAT is the framework we use to create a trader. Out of a patriot. You couldn't imagine somebody who's happier to be in the box than someone who is a patriot to their country. And the SADRAT process is designed to take that patriot who's been trusted with secrets, who has fully drank the Kool-Aid, and convert them into a sale of treason. The SADRAT is an acronym that stands for Spot, Assess, Develop, Recruit, Handle. It's an A in the acronym, but it's spelled with an H. That's government for you. Handle, Terminate. SADRAT. Spot, Assess, Develop, Recruit, Handle, Terminate.
Okay.
That process is all inclusive from the moment you decide who you are going to look for. That's what spotting is. What boxes, what safe zones are you looking for to exploit? And then A is assessment. When you're looking at those safe boxes, how do you assess the people that are in them? What do those people value? What do those people care about? What do those people think? D stands for develop.
So to be specific about this, spot would be like 9 to 5 people that hate their 9 to 5 job, and they want financial independence to some degree, more time with their kids. They want to develop something that they can contribute to the world, right? That's essentially assessing like what they want.
Except that you kind of went through 3 steps in one, right?
Oh, you did? Okay.
So the spotting thing might be, where do those 9 to 5ers hang out on the internet? They hang out on Instagram. They hang out on TikTok. They hang out in Reddit forums. They hang out on news platforms. They hang out on Amazon, right? So you find out where they hang out. That's your spotting. I know I want 9 to 5ers. I know I want people who make less than $80,000 a year. I know I want people who have children and they have dependents and they want something more. That's where you're going to find them.
Got it.
So then you go to those locations and you start hooking, or you start baiting the location with things that will help you understand if that audience has the people you're looking for. So does that have high achievers in it? Does it have people who engage? Does it have people who are the right age? Does it have people who are the right demographics, the right income? And that's the A in SADRAT. You're assessing
Got it.
the group that you're spotting to see if they actually have viable targets.
Got it.
And then when you find those viable targets, because you will find them, just some environments have more targets than others. When you find them, then you start to actively develop them, which means you start teaching, you start training,
Providing value, all that.
because that's going to be what moves them. Develop is just another word for growing. So now what you're doing is you're cultivating the future seedlings that will become your asset stable. The next step is recruiting. Recruiting is when you get them to take an action that transfers the value. When they're in development mode, you're pouring value into them and they're giving you nothing. When it comes to recruitment, you're actually having them give you some value back. It's the person giving you an email address. It's the person buying your front end. It's the person who's buying your book for somebody else. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. What matters is that they're giving you value in return. That shows that they have been recruited. They now believe in what you're teaching, and they're demonstrating their belief in some way, shape, or form. And then handling is the whole process where you take and you run them through the ascension process of going from being a front-end buyer to a back-end buyer. It's a mix of how you sell bigger ticket items, but you also have them have bigger ticket breakthroughs. Right. But handle is a large step. And the last step that I find is the most valuable that so many people in the business world ignore is called terminate. Once you are handling somebody and their return on investment starts to become a negative return on investment, you have to get rid of them. If they start to decline in their performance, if they start to decline in their ROI, why are you continuing to invest in that? You have to turn off your investment, ride out the natural decline. You're actually going to increase your ROI if you stop investing in them actively, but their natural life cycle is going to continue to pay, and the profit margin will be higher because you've turned off your advertising, you've turned off your expenses, and you're refocusing those resources back into the spotting element of SADRAT. So it's a cycle that continues to go. It's complicated, it's big, it can be heavy, but at its core, it's really about understanding that the person you want, the customer you want, the client you want, they're out there. You just have to actively find and cultivate them every step of the way. There's never anything that's accidental. You're never just lucky that you found somebody. You are actively creating an entire life cycle that when they find it, it resonates with them as if it was meant to be.
Right. My gosh. I got to pay you to like spend time with you, bro. Like I'm not kidding you. Out of all the podcast guests, like I have a guest today that I'm really excited about. He's a attorney general. I'm excited about him just for local politics in Arizona, but like beyond how hyper specifically excited I am about him, you are one of my favorite podcast hosts on all the shows you've been on.
Man.
Incredible. Your ability to take a question, apply it to a framework that makes sense for me and also my audience. Nobody knows how to do that. Most people just have like predetermined things they're going to talk. Dude, you're so freaking good. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, guys. Get over there. Get over to Everyday Spy. Get into one of his challenges. I'm going to participate. I'm writing this guy a check because you're the kind of guy that, no joke, I put water on this seed with you. It's going to produce endless amounts of fruit. Today, I'm not joking. That just being in front of you, I'm going to make an extra $1 million.
So I want you to send me a text.
I will.
When you have the estimate of what you think you just made because of one tweak that we came up with.
Oh, just from today, I'm making an extra $1 million. I'm telling you, even in the next 30 days and what I'm going to apply to my team, you bring me into your group. I'll pay to be in your group. I will pay to be in your group, and I will come in and go, guys, you need to be taking action because this is what I did. I took what Andy said, and boom, boom, boom. Here's the result I got. This is what you're missing when you're not taking the action that he's teaching. So good to meet you. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you.
One of the most common questions I get is, what title company do I use? What title company am I using in Arizona, Atlanta, California, Texas, whatever? The answer for many years was a different title company in every state, because not every state handles transactions the same way. Now, the answer is one title company. It's Creative Title and Escrow. Go to getcreativetitle.com/podcast. You can learn how they will do SubTo deals, seller finance deals, cash transactions, gator deals, double close, transactional lending, whatever, even novation agreements. There's really nothing that Creative Title and Escrow can't do. To learn how brand new investors are using Creative Title all the way up to the biggest players in the industry, head over to getcreativetitle.com/podcast.